Estate and CX, the UK's #1 estate agency podcast discussing the future of estate agency, entrepreneurship and business, host Mark Burgess and Rob Brady.
Welcome to this episode of Estate and CX. Today I'm talking to Julie Burns from a company called Freya North. You're going to love this episode because Julie talks about how to reinvent the rules of your small estate agency. We talk about her background, where she's been a property for over 20 years. She's taken a break from property, done a master's degree in photography. She's travelled to Palestine. She's been all different places all over the world. Great experience. But what I really love about it is that she doesn't care about what the rules of estate agency are. She's making her own rules and it's paying off.
So, Julie, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you coming down from the north, as with any of our guests down to London. So, for anyone listening out there, we've got Julie from Freya North. I found a really interesting fact about this, about what the name was and why it came about. So, just a bit of background for anyone who's listening there. Who, Julie, how long have you been set out? The background of Freya North.
Okay, so everybody actually called me Freya now, so only Freya North, so you can call me wherever you want. If you're from Liverpool and you're watching this, everyone calls you Ju. You don't call me Julie, but knows. So Freya, hey, from when I decided to set up my own agency, was in September 2021. I'd left the industry where I was very much fed up of being spoken down to, being controlled, constantly now being to be in the business. And I thought, that's a really badass, strong, independent woman's name. And I looked it up on Google, as we do, into that rabbit hole, and Freya is a Viking warrior. And I thought, that's me. That is me to the core. I'm not taking any more stick. I'm going to do it myself. And then, of course, North, because we're in there. So that's where Freya North comes from. This is how I'm going to do it, and I know what I'm doing, and I'm really good at what I'm doing, and that's Freya. A lot of people think, is it my daughter's name? No, it's not. Her name's Robin, but no, that's where Freya comes from, and I'm going to keep it to that and keep that brand and keep it core, but not necessarily always just work with women, with the men as well. So a little bit about my background, to be really quick with that, because there's a lot that I've done. So I got into property while I was on maternity leave with my son, and I'd not long come back from travelling and working abroad, and met someone, had my firstborn, been working in customer service at BT, so I'd had all of that training on customer service before, and the ex's mum then was working for a company called Venmores, which are quite big in Liverpool. And they needed somebody to help in the maintenance department, so taking all the calls, booking in the repairs. And then I kind of worked there for a few years, came in right at the bottom, no training, pick up the phone, deal with the abusive customers, the worst of the worst. They were dealing with the maintenance. And then I just then went on to another company working for a developer called Beetham. And you probably know those from lifespans of Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool. Working in the property management and the investment side, and then stayed in property management, lettings, investments for about 10, 15 years. And then for me, it kind of got very cut through industry. I don't know whether that was just happening in Merseyside, but there was just this huge competition and all agents going at each other and trying to get all of the properties, lots of new developments. Liverpool was changing massively after the capital culture 2008. So, of course, there was lots of projects going on, lots of money being spent. So all the agents wanted a part of that. Split up with the kids' dad. And I just wanted to just come out of it, just refresh and just do something else. And then I went on a bit of a self-discovery journey, came out of it for a couple of years, went and done a degree. Done a teaching degree, done a master's degree, went over to Palestine, worked in the West Bank, put on exhibition, won awards for photography, worked on film sets, because I'm fortunate that I've got lots of friends who work in TV and production. They give me lots of opportunities. In that time, I met my now husband, and he was like, get back into property. just get back into it. And actually, the guy who gave me a free office in the film production company in Merseyside, I knew him because I used to manage his properties years and years ago. And I always had a really good relationship with him. And he's like, you know, we're on this journey and you're doing this. And he was getting me photographing Tim Roth and, you know, working on all these big sets that I wouldn't have the opportunity to do. And he always said to me as well, you're good at photography, good, you're better at property, get back into it. So I went to work for somebody else then. Actually, they reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, would you ever get back into investments? And what they were doing was working with overseas investors. You have a lot of Hong Kong with British national passports, you know, passporting and buying over here. A couple of years ago, you remember they were all buying up lots of stock, especially in Liverpool and Manchester. And my job really when I got back into the property side of it was to just not focus on the sales and letting, not the letting, sorry, but more the investments. So sourcing properties, so working with lots of other agents. So going to agents in Liverpool, Manchester, buying up properties, telling these investors what the return on the investment was, then retaining that management side of it through the agency I was working for, and then it would go over to them. So very quickly started at zero, and then I was completing on 30 portal properties a month for this company. Was there a couple of years, didn't like the way the things were working, and I didn't like that whole different department where one department was really good at the sales and we were giving them, the clients, what they needed and that level of customer service. Then it would go over to the managers and would fall apart. Then the client would be complaining and coming back to me. And there was just that constant battle with the maintenance team as well, and just arguing with people. And I just thought it was really unhealthy. And I felt like I was before I went and done the degrees and went on to Israel. I thought, it's not for me again. And my husband was like, just set up on your own. And I did, and I quit. And I had nothing, I had no money because I was actually in Croatia at the time getting my teeth done. I just thought, just do. And I was, it's like company's house, 70 odd quid, whatever it was. And just do it. I can do it. If I can sell 30, 40 properties and work with all these other agencies. And also at that time, I could see what other agents should have been doing, but weren't doing. I was like, I can be better now. And I can have my own department structured the way that I want to do it. So I had £0 in the bank because it just spent the last £7 that I had on tea, which I'm really happy with. And I just went at it, and I just put all the same energy into it that I always had done working for other people, but for myself. And what happened was that snowball effect where clients were getting me to source properties for them. And it was fortunate because I was sourcing properties that they were paying a deposit, because without that, I'd have no funds waiting for completions to come through. So one client told another client, and then those properties came on for management. And I've been doing now lettings since 2021 in my own business, got over a few hundred lets now, just brought in a new lettings manager. And then recently in the last 6 months started to do sales, but doing sales differently with a different structure. And it's really taken off, and to the point where I'm bringing in staff, I'm mentoring staff. And we just opened up a shop out a month and a half ago now, and I've managed to acquire which is £4.5 million worth of stock in the last few months. So I'm doing something right. I don't know how I'm doing it, but I'm doing it. And I think it's just being a real people person. So that was kind of where I am. But I could probably sit here and tell you, but swear to you, Joe, now straight that is whichever part you want, but there's lots of other things.
So let's start with the sales side that you started. Is that like just normal, what most estate agents would consider sort of residential homes, or is it sort of the new developments, or how does the sales side of your business work? You just
normal.
Normal, just go around, see people for valuations and sit in their front room and talk to them.
Yeah. And that's what we do, isn't it? And I think it's getting in the front door. And I was doing a valuation last week, and me and this one talking about HRT and the menopause, and and everyone will agree with me, and everyone who works in sales, you're not just a sales agent. You've got to be a people person, and that's what I'm doing. And also, a lot of investors that I've worked with in the past or may have properties with us that they're asking me now to sell. So it's mainly that, and just the reputation that I've built over the years. Now people know that I'm doing sales and coming to me to sell properties that they have.
Yeah.
Was it an natural evolution because of like the clients we tend to speak to, or clients we've got, or people who are into the podcast? So if they've gone from, say, that property management, lettings, property sourcing, naturally you're delivering some service to someone that they like you because they're a client of yours, and then we tend to find that a lot of them tend to move into sales naturally because people are asking them, "Can you sell something for me?" And you're like, "Well, you can use that agent there, but you still know they're not going to deliver the same service." So is that why it's happened in the last sort of?
I think for me, it was more natural with the lettings because it was, fortunately for me, my husband's my builder, so he has his own buildings company, so everything goes to him through the buildings. So really for me, I knew at some point I wanted to be a one-stop shop for everything. So the client can then eventually come to us for property sourcing, then the management, because they know then the sales, going back to what I was saying before with the other agency that I worked for, it kind of fell off at that end and the level of service wasn't there in the property management. So for me, it was very much about, I want that to be across the board. So is the maintenance team great? Not that he's just because he's my husband. If he wasn't great at what he did, I wouldn't pass the weight to him because it's all about the communication. With the sales, it wasn't the same process. The reason I went into sales is that when I was property sourcing with other agents in the area in Liverpool and Manchester, I didn't know who I was speaking to. I could be doing a sale from April and it was still going through because maybe there was an overseas buyer and they were having issues with the mortgage and it was just taking a long time. That by the time we got to the end of the sale, that staff member had left because of the high staff turnover. So I was finding that there wasn't really someone there wasn't a go-to person. So for me, I thought we'll start delivering a service that other agents aren't delivering. And there's nothing worse than walking into an estate agent. I found, well, one, you feel intimidated because the girl or the guy behind the desk really don't want to speak to you. And just having that person that you knew if you called up, that person would have the answer, even if they were on lunch or they were on holiday. Just giving that customer that satisfaction is what I've given them for the property sourcing in the lessons. And I thought, well, I want to start doing that within our community in the area that I'm working in and just giving that level of service in sales as well. So for me, I work differently. So when I go out to do the valuation, I'm there from the beginning to the end. There's no, it goes to a lister, it goes to a sales progressor, it goes to them because I don't want people then passing it around. So then when I onboard more staff, they will also do the same. So they will be the valuer, they will be the closer. So that's the way that I'm going to do it. Whether I start onboarding them self-employed, in the self-employed model, or they come as an employee, but that's the structure of the company because I just want everyone to be responsible for their client. And then that will generate more leads because they know, okay, if I need Julie, and send her a WhatsApp. If I need such and such person, I can reach out to them. And I think for me, it wasn't the same as the lettings. It was just about how can I stand out differently? Because ultimately, we have to follow regulation. You have to do things the way that it's designed. We're not reinventing the wheel when it's coming to lettings and sales. But what we do have to do is think of how are we going to give our customer that service? And for me, it's about being accountable for the way that you're doing.
Yeah, delivering that. Do you think that there's stuff when you left the industry, and you went to Palestine and worked in the film sets and photography, and even when you went back to university, studied, was there stuff around all of that you then brought back and applied to this industry, or not really? Right.
100%. There was a time 12, 13 years ago, I was bunking on the bus with my daughter from school. I didn't have any money. But for me, I had to get out of the industry, and I was a single mum. They obviously have a dad, you see, and dad and stuff like that. But we do what we've got to do. And I grew up, I've got 2 brothers, 2 sisters. My mum worked 2 jobs. My dad was worked. Very rarely see my parents, and it was like, go to school, play out, feed yourself, and that's the way that I think it's where I was brought up. And then also when I left school, I also done quite a lot of traveling as well. I was fortunate to get jobs that I wouldn't have got elsewhere. I didn't go to university when I left school. But when I went on to Palestine, of course, I seen a lot. On the second day that I was there in Jerusalem, I seen someone stabbed to death, like from me to that door. And that really impacted me. And actually, my initial master's thesis was on working with the IDF from New and Good to Big. But it shifted very quickly when I was over there, and that empathy then. And then I was working in the West Bank, and I was working with families, and they were taking me onto the rooftops where normally they wouldn't be able to go because they wasn't safe, and having that freedom. And during all of that experience and working on the film sets and working with people in high pressure jobs, when you are on film sets, it's a lot of hard work. It really is hard work. And, they work on these projects filming for 3-6 months, but they're not sleeping because they're working from 6 in the morning till 3 the next night. And I think a lot of that I brought back with me was about, have done this as a single mum as well. I've been able to go and do that. I've witnessed so much. And also knowing that I came from a family where you have to go to work and you went something you've got to do it. And I think maybe if I hadn't have done that, well, I know for a fact if I hadn't have had that time away and then come back, I probably wouldn't have put as much energy and effort. Maybe I would have, because I've always been ambitious. But more so going out to Palestine and seeing that and seeing what goes on. And understanding it because I was there, and then also working in that environment where the biggest thing for me about my business is about creating opportunity. And the guy that I was working for on the film sets and stuff, he's very much an advocate for that in Merseyside. Colin McCune, he's a film producer. He's done books ahead with that. He's done lots of other fantastic projects since. I was working on reception one day, and one of the guys, he used to be one of the Doctor Who, was he coming to do some editing, and he'd been directing something. And he's like, oh, this is Julie, she's on reception, but she's actually done a master's in photography, and really sung your praises and didn't just go, oh, she's just my receptionist. He's like, no, they've done this and they've done that. And he does that for everybody and gives you opportunities. So I've taken that as well. And, I've just on board as a new lessons manager. I brought her with me today. Most other people probably be like, you need to go back at the office, answering the phone. No, people come late for a day, they can go between those. So I'm very much about, I'm running a business. I want it to be successful, but I want to give opportunities. So I want to be working in schools in the area, going out and teaching them about how you can leave school and start a business, ways to navigate around that, and how to work with other people as well. And, the world's a very different place now, isn't it, to I was growing up anyway. So I did bring a lot from that, and I think empathy is the biggest thing, and we do actually need that in sales and lettings anyway, because we're looking after people's biggest assets.
And do you think, what would you say to somebody who says, I haven't got the money to start a business, or I can't quit my job because, I can't get out of this rut that I'm in, whatever that rut might be. It sounds like you've experienced that many times in life and just gone, oh, I solved it. I've solved the problem. So is that just, that's just mindset, or how do you look at that when somebody's saying to you there's nothing I can do, there are my circumstances?
Yeah. I mean, I'd read a lot. I never used to, but I do now, and I love self-help books. So anything that's going to give you a growth mindset, a fixed mindset. So I think in life we're all at different stages. So for me, when my children were younger, I wouldn't have even taken that risk. And I know a lot of women and men now are joining franchises and litigators because they have that security then. Because as you know, running a business and running lettings and sales, we have so many overheads. It is achievable. I did do it. And the way that I did it was through property source. And so a lot of the time there is people, I'm on the Women in Estate Agency group. And you do see a lot where they say, oh, we want to leave this really toxic environment, which is what I did. And it was a very sexist, toxic environment that I was in, where I actually felt threatened. And I think at that point, it was just, do it, just quit and then have no job. So for me, I would say, if you're going to do it and you've got no money, think of other things that you can do, like I did with the property sourcing. So maybe if you're in a job where you don't feel happy, start putting that training into place. And so people always call it like a side hustle. So you could probably start doing a bit of property sourcing, or I don't know, maybe if you're good at staging properties or doing photography or getting your drone license. I think if you can start doing something that you could bring into your business at the beginning where you know you're going to get a revenue, which is what I did, that will probably be the best way to do it, to structure it. So then it's like, now I'm doing sales, they're all in the pipeline. That money's not going to come in for them in a few months. And I've just onboarded staff. So at the minute, the lettings is going to keep ticking over to pay it. So for me, anyone who's looking to start out, I would say, do have something else going as well. So if you are looking at doing the lettings will start to build up, but it's slow and steady. I mean, I had over 100 in the first year, so really quick for me. But just have something else that's just going to keep paying your bills. I was just telling one of the other guys before you were talking upstairs about how when I first started, Zoopla were trying to onboard me for advertising, and I managed to get them down to £10 a month. Sorry, Zoopla, if you watch this, but I did. And a good salesperson can do that. It's like, I haven't got no money. I haven't got any properties to list. And even if I had one there, and when I first started, my management fees were 7% because I just wanted the business pulling in. And then eventually, once you've got a reputation, you can change it. So I'd just say to anyone who's looking to start a business, just have something that can generate you some sort of income. If you're not looking at those models where you are going to have to then pay someone. I do get asked to join those franchises a lot of the time, and people will reach out to me. But for me, you know, I very rarely pay myself a wage at the moment. I'm just making sure everything's ticking over. But I want that freedom in 5-10 years' time where I'm like, I'm not tied into paying someone else for my work, because I think inside me there's a part of me that probably eats away at me. I want to remove myself away from answering to someone else.
You're on the fee side to it. What I found interesting on your website, you actually promote your fees.
Yeah.
On there, like, you know, it's one thing that Mark predominantly took to a lot of agents about, is then put it on there, and some of them say, "Oh, I don't want to do that in case you have rare competition." Who knows? I mean, I noticed that you put 9 year management fee, but actually your sales fee on there is 1.2%. I think it is, or 10% management fee. I think it is.
Yeah.
You got on there. Like, what made you? What made you go, like, most agents don't do this, but I'm going to just do it and put it on there?
Well, for lettings, they should. So I, when I was awarded recently by Property Mark Hall, that I do put it on, but they do say you are supposed to do it. And a lot of agents do with the letting side.
Yeah.
But that's how I win business, by being transparent. I've got nothing to hide. When I was doing my market research, when I was going into sales, I was phoning up a lot of the other agents, because that's what you do as a business owner, don't you? So, but they hounded me, but they would not tell me what their fee was. And it was like someone was reading off a script, like I used to do many years ago when I was working at BT. You know, the reading off a script, just a robot. There was no one who'd be like, "Oh, this is what we do. These are our fees." And they were like, "Well, we'll just book you in." I said, "No, you won't, because I'm not going to invite someone into my home." I mean, I wasn't selling the property, right? But I'm not going to invite someone into my home unless I know, because I'm not having Delbo coming in thinking he can swindle me out of 2% fees, when I'd rather know what I'm dealing with. So when you come to your property, yeah, you can explain your services and what you're going to do and why you think you're worth that value. But for me to put it on my website, it's all about, for me anyways, about transparency from the beginning to the end. And that accountability there is from the offset. So it's, you know what our fees are, terms of business are on there, you can see the fee sheet, we've got nothing to hide. Whether we take kickbacks from contractors, where everything's there and everything's strategically put together. So then I'm not locking myself into the office. I have cut myself a new office in the new shop. I don't even sit in there because it's just not me. Come in and talk to me. I've told you from the start what we're about. And this is what we are. We're not lying. We're not telling you any porkies. We are what we are. If you decide to then go with another agent down the road who says they're going to give you 10, 15 grand more, that's fine. I'd actually prefer you to go and experience that and then come back to me in a few months. So that transparency is really important to me. And I think not just on your website, but in the valuation, the initial phone call, come into the office, have a chat, look at the interior design books that I've got out.
And do you find that because of predominantly your background hasn't been traditionally a estate agency, you're not sort of, you have these bad old habits of decades of, we always do it this way, don't do it this way, competition. It seems like you've just gone, I'm going to work out my formula, how I want to do it, do my own research, and then I'm going to put out what I believe, rather than going, let's just copy everyone else.
Yeah, and I think it's very good. I do switch off because I'm reading that book at the minute, The Letham's Day, and I know a lot of people are reading that, and I think we just need that in everyday life. And we're driving along and some numpty like cut you up or whatever, and it's just let it go. And I think for me, when I opened the shop, I think I told you this when we spoke about how I was targeting an area that I wanted to be in, where I was away from other agents, because I wouldn't want to put myself next to other high street bands, because you're adding too much pressure to yourself then as well. And as a lot of people say, well, you're new, but I'm not. I've been in property since 2001. I just were a new agent in that area. And I was waiting for that specific area because I knew there was two other agents down the road, maybe a mile away, and then another agent that mile. So that, well, why can't we be the go-to then just there? And then also next door, you've got to think about things when you are a business owner, not just copying what everyone else is doing, where you do see a lot of high street brands and they all face each other next. Why? They're just going to go in the first door. They're just going to see the same thing, desks and people on phones. And what I did was, there's an actual protein kind of place next door where everyone comes after the gym and they get the protein shakes and the breakfasts and stuff like that. And it's the generation that are then going to be your next lot of investors. It's the generation that are going to be shacking up with the partner and look up at the next rental or the next purchase or selling the property. I am right next door to that establishment, and it makes more sense to put your business next to something that's going to generate your business. Think smarter, not bolder. We know it's like, who are your customers? Are your customers the ones that are just going to go along all the other branches and go, their fees are a bit cheaper, so I'll go in there? For me at the start, no, that's the younger generation. That's the trendy crowd. That's where they're going. Because what I was finding as well when I was doing the market research and I was trying to get valuations before I got the job, you'd have the older generation, and I know, why do you trust you? Remember, I you punish. And and then having to explain yourself and justify what you are. Whereas the world that we're in now, it is mobile phones, it is AI, it is all digital. It is about being on Instagram and being, social. So it's that next wave of investors, buyers, sellers, tenants, young people who are working on developments, people who are builders, contractors, electricians. And that's why I'm
So what interests out is like, big about like some of the conversations we've had in the past where someone said about, brochures, for example, printing up brochures, and they said, well, it's a digital format, most people want it. And they always think about Doris, the one in 1,000 who might want that particular brochure. They worry about them, but forgetting actually you've got the 999 other people who might be getting a protein shake next door. You don't care about.
I was chatting to an agent the other day whereby he was recalling when he first had that conversation with me back in 2018 or whatever. We was talking about software, and he said, "Oh yeah, I need you to come and talk to one of my staff because she's got questions about it." And she was not. We had this at the time. We had this online presentation that you send people after evaluation. She was like, "Yeah, but what happens where I go and see little old 81-year-old who hasn't got a computer?" And I'm like, "Fuck her." It's just that. But what I meant was it's just a ridiculous. Why are you asking me that? I mean, you'll figure it out. You'll write her a letter or something, won't you? You're sick of her in her problem. You're not thinking straight about stuff. Like, say, you're thinking about it, great, okay. everyone's doing stuff on TikTok, everyone's doing stuff on Instagram, all going to the gym, all going to this protein, but this seems like a good place. Instead of just like, I'm opening an estate agency. Where are all the other estate agents? There. What have they all got?
Yeah.
Desks with a plant on. Oh, yeah, right, we do that then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you'll be like them, making no money, working until like 7 o'clock at night, all hours, getting stressed out, and just going down that wormhole of, like you said, toxicity and whatever else it might be. And just on a slightly different note, so you mentioned about that. You mentioned about, the women in the estate agency group, and the you see people on there talking about wanting to get out of their job and all of that sort of stuff. So what do you've experienced it for a long period of time, and what do you feel like the industry is generally like as a woman? Is it working inside a estate agency, and also as a business owner in a estate agency? Do you feel like it is still decades away from where it needs to be? Do you feel it's improving? Do you feel that people take you seriously, mock you? Like, what's your thoughts on it?
It's a bit of a mixed bag for me, really. I do still get that. Do you want to talk to the business partner before you make any financial decisions? Okay, so who would that be? The company's mine. It's 100% mine. I own it. I have no anything. And I know that person I'm speaking to on the phone thinks I've got to go and speak to my husband and the guy. I don't. And that is still there. I hate the DSAs, which we all hate as women when we get that, especially from a woman's solicitor. Come on, you know who I am. You've been speaking to me for 3 months. I think we all coming away from it, but there is certain aspects, and also people will still phone up and say, oh, who are trying to sell me the product or whatever, and they'll say, like, can I speak to business owner? Is he there? That does still happen. And I don't think we're decades away. I think we're becoming a bit more educated. I just think that other things need to change for people to just say, now there's the same ways that we have to address people, and we're in a society now where we are respectful, and I am, and I hope other people are. But I think with like solicitors and firms like that, they need to change their ways as well, and I think they need to step away from the DSAs. And then also, as business owners, women can be business owners, and women have been business owners for many, many years. And not just being a woman, but also people can start businesses on their own. They don't need funds from banks. We don't need to go and take out massive overdrafts. There are ways to do things. So I don't think we're that far away from it, but I think there are things that need to change. So for me, I think the government can't say, well, you can't say yes to this person because we'll see you in court, and you can't address someone as a he or shirt off, whichever. But then in the same respects, a law firm can say, dear says, yeah, it's like, hang on a minute, what's going on? And I think a lot of that, we could go into a rabbit hole here with the government and the way the things are getting done in our industry, the things that are changing, that we're becoming more responsible for, that ultimately the government should be responsible for. But yeah, I don't think we're a million miles away from it. The women in the estate agency group is fantastic. I love it. I went to the conference recently, didn't make it to last year's one. And it's just such a buzz and such a vibe. And I'm always on there. I'm always posting. There's when it first started, I think there was a few people on there who were a little bit toxic and saying horrible things to people who were just starting out or just needed support. And they got rid of a lot of those people on the group. So to have those support networks and a place where you can go to, because as a male or a female business owner, I think it can be a really lonely space. And to have that group for women is great, because there are women working in industries where I've worked before, and I've seen probably like you guys have all kinds of things happening in those environments. And it's getting better. I think you just got to grow a thick skin, and I think if you work in this industry, you should really have a thick skin after about 5 years anyway.
Yeah, because I suppose a lot of the problems, like regardless of whether you're female or male, are going to be similar, aren't they? You've got very overpowering characters, and you've got some characters that don't want confrontation, whether you're male or female, and that could be a struggle for you. But I went to the first Women in the Estate Agency event, and I didn't really know why I was going. I just went because I knew Sarah Edmondson, and I went along to support, and just thought, I'll just sit at the side here, like, it's nothing, it's not my show. I'm just going to see it and observe. And I actually learned quite an important lesson for myself, for the way I talk to my wife, my daughters, everybody really, which I felt was like, I'd always been of the opinion that, like, I don't know, we do a conference, let's say, and we have 250 people there, and there are men, and there are women there, and everybody's, what is it? Like, let's say I've got four or five men on the stage, and you're all free to ask questions. I'm not like making it's a male event. But when I went to the Women in the State Agency event, what I found was that it was all women on the stage. It was mainly women in the audience. And immediately I felt like I wasn't able to ask a question because, like, I stumbled in my event. And I just thought, like, never really thought it like that.
On the birth side, I think when I went there was quite a lot of men, and they had men. And there was a really interesting talk about depression, and it was great to hear from both sides and everybody's stories as well, because sometimes as well, not just as business owners, but just people, just life, just working, you never know what someone's going through. You never understand. And that's going back to the Palestine as well. And like, oh, right, we don't know. And I think the older we get as well, the more wise we get to things like that. I think, I'm very much a really chilled out boss. I wouldn't even call myself a boss, everyone's colleague. And, and I think that's just the way that I am as a person, because I think I've seen so much and I've been through so much. And I think you can get the best from people if you're there for them, you're supportive, and you understand people as well. And I think that group is really great for that. And it really gives women the opportunity to be able to talk about things and express how they feel with no kind of
Judgment on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a few people in there that say that you can't change everyone.
Like I say, there would have been a point in my life, certainly, where I would have probably felt a bit like, why do you need a women in the state agency group? Because, like, you're just in the state agency, like, blah, 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 blah. That event kind of changed my view on it to the point whereby I could see, like, I can now look at it and think, if you were just in a general estate agency group and you decided to post a question about something you were struggling with, there would 100% be some element of, like, yeah, but he's winning.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's why it's nice to have that support. Like, whether, like, there is none of that, we can just have a normal conversation about the thing that I asked.
I think we do find that, even similar with our community group we've got, you know what I mean? There's, if you're comfortable with the tribe you're in, like, we have agents who just chuck anything in there, but it's some of it, like, they've got genuine problems in their business and they're happy just to basically just, like, 300 members are in that WhatsApp group. And they just put saying, I'm having a problem with this. Has anyone got any advice? Like, and without that, they're going to be lonely business owners. It's going to be in their head. It's going to be trouble. And they're thinking, like, how do I get around this? And who do I ask? He was just thinking, just shut up about your stay and see if they care. Like, your partner, your mate, or your family member, or something like that. So for the sort of the group, it's great to hear that, because we had that same conversation. We had the same conversation we had about with when we did EAX and our event and talking about that. And it wasn't because it was like, we were on an all men dominated set, and we have had women in the past from there. He just consciously discussed the thought, actually, like, that, you met Laura upstairs. Like, Laura's a phenomenal agent, like, and it's good to have that mixed group of conversations that can happen.
Okay, so how are you going to, do you think that there's a danger that as your company continues to grow, you get more popular and more people start coming to the company, you are less able to give you're going to do see some all the way through the transaction. If you were to go down the self-employed road, that could be even more, this person thinks that they've got their own business and they're going to do it their way, even though it's under your brand. Like, have you got any plans on, like, you're thinking, like, how you might stick to that idea of transparency and being honest with people and just helping people, and rather than, like, as it starts to get more popular, let's just get the work done. Right.
I never want to be that agent. So when I started the business, that was very much, I could have done that. I could have went and got that loan or joined, one of these the franchises and paid a percentage so that it was covering my overheads, and I could just bring in sales progressor or lettings negotiator. But for me, it's about having that support. So I always want to continue to do that. So I will grow as my team grows. I'm not doing it the other way around. So I'm not going to start going, okay, we're doing really well. I will put a stop on it. So for me, with my business plans, it's very much, if that level of service isn't being delivered, we're not taking on any more stock. I'm not doing it. That's the way I want to be, because if I don't, I'm just the same as the other agents. I'm just thinking, ooh, ding, pound signs. That's not what I'm about. I'm really not about that. And I know a lot of people are, and that's fine for them. And I am an entrepreneur and I'm running a business, and men need me to feed myself. I've slept on a roof in Greece for a week once before. I'll do it again for me, I will stop where I'm at. So I do my fees at the fair now. They're not extortionate. I'm at 1.2%. I've advised recently to go much higher than that. But of course, with the lettings, I started off low and you build up a reputation. So for me, I want it to become, we kind of choose you, you not choose us. So then we can be a bit more playful with the clients, and then also say, we're not actually taking on more stock at the moment because I want you to have the service that I've promised everybody that I'm going to give. And whether that works or not, that's what I want and that's what I believe in. And that's what I want all my staff to believe in. And I also, it's not just about the customer for me, it's going back to the mentorship with the staff and giving them that support. The amount of companies that I'd wait for, like, there's your computer, see you here. Just get on there. And you're like, sink or swim. And for me, I don't want that. Even if you've come to me and you've got 6 years lessons experience of working at a franchise, there's a lot of bad traits that come with that. And you don't bring to me, you bring to me the customer service, you know how it operationally that will work. But do you have that je ne sais quoi? Or are you that person who's going to wrap their arms around the customer? And your values the core. My core value, I keep going on to my son about it, and I think he's like, go on, shut up. And every week, and I sound like a broken record, and I will continue to do that until you box me in that coffin, because it's really important to know that what I've said I'm going to do, we're going to do. And for me, if we get too many properties coming in, too many listings, I'm so sorry, you're going to have to take it to another agent because I need to deliver the service. So once my new lettings manager has had our hail on board for the next few months, right, she's got it. She's a machine. She's off. She's already a machine. She's fantastic. James is doing crown vocational training, which is very specific to property, which is great. He's doing that. He'll then manage the maintenance and making sure he got it. Not just bringing lots of people in and just being like, yeah, getting loads of money. Doesn't work. It comes and kicks you in the arse eventually. And I think you lose your credibility. I'm not going to then just bugger off and sun it up somewhere. Still take a couple of holidays a year, try and relax, which I haven't done for many years. But yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And then eventually open up a value franchise.
You learn a lot with doing the lettings first and the sales, because I trained as obviously predominantly in sales, and then I went to lettings. And I thought I'd just take everything and anything on, because in sales, I know there's some element difference to that, but you go for a sales process and there's an end result of the house being sold, not you market a lettings home and then you have to manage it, and if it dog shit, it's hell, and you can't manage them. It just puts a strain on the relationship with the fact it puts a strain on, and I remember when I moved over to the letting side and I looked at the feasibility of our portfolio at the time, I thought I soon identified a couple of clients who were just awful clients to deal with, and they took up so much time. And I remember saying to the business owner at the time, saying, look, we're going to sack these ones. Yeah, he's like, what are you doing? And why are you doing it? And if you were coming from a sales, it's about the lettings, yeah, would take anything on, and if they don't have that experience, so it's good to see that, because I think a lot of people.
I think also what I've seen over the years with the difference between sales and lettings is lettings is a sort of generally considered to be like, you know, the stepchild of sales, which is supposedly like, you know, the superstar of the business. But whenever I've dug into a company's processes and everything they do in their sales team, it's just a fucking mess. It's just like, you know, you do everything to sweet talk somebody on a valuation, and then after that, it's just a fucking mess. Whereas lettings, you can't afford to do that. Like, it has to work a certain way. And so, like, if you ran your sales department with as much efficiencies as you ran your lettings department, guess what? You'd probably have some pretty happy customers.
Stop living in a dream. You aren't selling sunset. It isn't all like, you know, glamorous. It's not that. And I think you're right in what you're saying. Like, a lot of the experience comes from lettings, because that's where you consistently having to problem solve all the time for long periods of time. With sales, it is that transactional period. But of course, you want them to come back. But say that's where we're saying with other agents, I was saying like, they don't care. Once that valuation is up, they've got to pay commissions to the later. So it's just not like that. And I'm very much like that with the lettings as well. So that's why I brought in my son for the property management. Is, you know, the lettings manager's not, you know, a couple of days a week she'll pick it up and oversee it. But having people being accountable for their own job roles and having that support in there and that they can do it and the necessary training that they need, it doesn't turn into dog shit then. It's like there's a consistency. You know, it's not rocket science. Get a client, you market the property, you find a very good tenant. If that tenant's an idiot on the viewing and your staff members are only focused on the commission, that staff member's not for you.
Yeah.
Always use your common sense. So I always, again, about accountability to the lettings manager. If you put absolute numpty in this property just because you want your 30, 40 good commission, whatever it is that worth it for 6, 7 months, 12 months of that person constantly emailing, constantly calling you, making all kinds of issues? It's not. Just think about what clients can be tenants.
The ones that say that they'll take it as it is, and then when they go in there, they're like they want
Oh yeah, I don't need to view it.
want a full redeck of the place, and I need to change his carpets. And I remember those NC people. What did you learn from your property sourcing side with the agency you've dealt with, like going into the sales side as a buyer, Fetty? Because that must have seemed quite a lot on that side, dealing with agents, looking at viewings, looking at properties, seeing how a neg showed someone around, how they answered the phone, how you sales progress through. Because like even like my partner and I we're selling a flat of hers, and like, you know, because of my experience in agency, she's like, you just deal with it, because I haven't got a clue what we're doing. And like, it's even just crazy the conversations we had. Like, a viewing takes place, one of the team members messages it. She was like, whenever we do a viewing, and this guy books a viewing in, I never hear anything back from him. And I was like, well, he actually messages me. And then the other one is like, I was like, why don't I even hear back from this one? She's like, oh, she messages me. And I was like, how mad is this? The fact of like, you're getting random bits of feedback, we're getting the same confirmation of viewing, but we're both getting feedback from however they're choosing. I was thinking like, such a simple process of thinking. I'm thinking that one in the office is shit, and she's thinking that person is just shit.
Yeah.
But actually, they're both.
I leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And I think for me, I learned so much because of when we come out of COVID. It was crazy because there was a lot of investors, you know, selling data for us properties and instant exchanging, completing on those for deal sourcing. And I was building up really good relationships with agents. And I also had a little black book of snotty agents. So I knew I was going to start my own business at some point. I thought they're going in my black book because if they ever come to me in the future, which people should always remember that as well. And I've always been, you know, very fixated on that. Like, you know, you should treat people with all the same respect because you never know who you meet on your way down. And, you know, a lot of the agents were rude and too pushy when it was coming to the sales progression. They were saying, you know, solicitors saying this and saying that. And I know that's got a lot to do with conveyancing. But the worst thing was going on viewings and they just stood by the door, messing on the phones. One guy was sitting outside blasting dance music while I looked around. And I think because he got so familiar with me viewing and also because they were in a fortunate position where they were just like, oh, I'm sorry, you're going to get 20 grand over anyway because it's, you know, we're just not past COVID and everyone's buying properties in Liverpool and Manchester and we don't have to put in the work. And I just thought, no, And I think there was only one agent in Manchester, I can't remember the name of the company, and I should because she was fantastic. And as soon as I went in, and she does what I do, she went in, she told me all the features of the property, the way that it should be done. And she was like, this was the dishwasher, this is when this was done, they'd done the extension in such and such time, without having to pull up the property questionnaire and stuff. And she knew it, and she cared. And I found when I was property sourcing, they were too cocky. It was like, don't care. And they were hiring people as well who, a lot of agents, retired people, which is great, giving people opportunities, but they're just door openers. And I think when you are doing property sourcing, you're buying for investors. They don't know how many investors you bought up your sleeve. I was going out to Hong Kong, putting my commenters teaching them about lettings and management because they don't understand it once they bought their investment. So educating them on that side. These clients are buying 10, 15, 20 properties. They're going to remortgage those properties, refinance them, come back and look again. And some agents were not seeing that, whereas I would want my staff to be trained in that because we don't know, you see like Elon Musk is wearing blooded jeans and your t-shirt. We don't know what people's backgrounds are or what their intentions are. So you really, for me, I learned that you've got to go that extra mile no matter what, even if you have the shittiest day ever, your car's broke. My husband crashed the other week he bought a car for a day because his pan was broke. You just better just say no. Dopers.
Did you find that attitude changed a few years later when like the wave just crashed and everyone was like shit?
No. Still see it now. So I've been on Beyonce looking for a house on their husbands, and some of the agents in my local area just not even going. They're letting the vendors booking them in at the wrong time, just not turning up, and I hate that. I hate lateness, punctuality, being there. When I train staff, I'm like, even in lessons, get in there because you should be checking for safety anyway. Is there any trip hazards? No, again, I have to keep the slides over things like that. Go in, pick up the post, move it. The amount of units have gone and there's just crap everywhere. You're like, yeah, they haven't in cobwebs on it all for the face. And, and it's those little things matter. They really do. And just being there, a lot of the time I'll be in a property and people will come in and be like, oh, thanks for showing us around home. Like, no, I'm the agent. Because they think, because I'm opening the front door, it's my home. And it's the first time in meeting me. It's like, I had a client the other day and I listed the property on the Wednesday. It sold on the Thursday. Yes, get it. Because it was right by where I've just opened the shop. And she texted me, she WhatsApped me just before she went and told Julie, I've left in handles. Can you like them for me just before? And I love that. And I was there early. I moved the post and just checked around, opened up the patio door. So when people come in, it was a nice sunny day, lit the candles. And it was just really nice. It's like, come in. No, if I could, I would have put a baked loaf in the oven and my smell going.
See, what I love about that, what you're doing there, most agents are trying to do well. Most agents who start their own business have some ideas about doing that sort of stuff in the beginning. And then what happens is they get really busy and they turn into the company that they didn't want to be, but they earn probably a bit more money. And they would be sitting there now thinking to themselves, yeah, that's all very well when you haven't got enough listings. It's nothing to do with not having enough listings. It's to do with charging the amount of money that you need to charge to give that service and then finding the customers that want that service. Like Laura, who you met before, who's on the podcast, may be out right now. I don't know if it'll be out soon or after this one, but either way, Laura's gone on that transition. She's gone from starting a business, small niche, giving people a good service, falling into a business where she doesn't charge enough money, and then slowly learning to bring it back to, look, what is it you offer people and how much do they have to pay to get it? And if nobody wants it, then you ain't got a business. But if they do want it, then you get to have the business that you want. You get to deal with the people you want. You get to do the job that you want. And it's fucking brilliant.
Yeah. Of course, and I think that's what it's about. So for me, if it gets to the point where like everyone wants to work there, raise your fees, and then train their staff, but slow it down so you can get them the service. And I'd rather increase the fees and have 10, 15 listings than be like, there's lots of agents now who, I seen a banner the other day on my movie and it's like, sell your house at 4-9 family. what a load of shit. They're going to phone up that because I know it's a local franchise. It's not 495. And I just think, don't play that game. And I just think you've lost the trust of that client instantly. It's like me saying, oh, it's only this, and then I phone you up, and then I'm going to charge you for your AMLs, I'm going to charge you for this, and then charge you for that. And we just had that interesting conversation before where she was like, well, I charge up front now. And I'm like, well, I've just decided now I'm going to start charging for the photography, or I'm going to get a project that's going to do the photographs. I mean, I've got a master's, I should be able to do it yourself, but I've got enough to do. But the thing is like, that's where you can control your business. Then it's like, you want to come and work with us because you know that we're really good at what we do. I'm here when you come into the view, and I'm making sure that, that words with the clients, I told them what to do to make the house look great. And, that was her idea to light the candles and stuff, and asking me to go them out, and just being responsible for your actions as well. And if you were to go to an agent who is just being paid to every door, then can light the candle lamp? It's not my job. I'm not going to do that. But by bringing people on board who, manual letting manager, I'm like, I want you to get through the morning with your general tasks, and then I want you networking. Whatever you do with that afternoon, whether that's viewings, inspections, or sitting on TikTok all afternoon, you do that. So giving them the basic skills, following the rules and regulations, and make sure that you're updating the customers in the morning, and then just going that extra mile in the afternoon. And I want everyone to do the same. If you're late, you're late. Sometimes traffic's terrible. It'll have cool, we've got footballs on the sleeve here, is all yours. I'm stuck. But again, pull over, call the customer and tell them. And it's just, again, with the maintenance, I've been saying to my son, James, I'm like, the tenant reports the repair, comes through the app. We acknowledge it. We speak to the landlord approves it. You tell the tenant. You then chase it a few days later. You then complete the job. You then tell the landlord. You then tell the tenant. You then go back to the tenant and say to the tenant, are you happy with that maintenance repair? Do you understand what I mean and why I'm getting you to do that? And he's like, no. And I said, because that tenant, not just the landlord, but when that tenant needs, that tenant's going to need us a good review. They're going to tell the friends. The friend could be wanting to rent the property out. They might want a property from us in the future. They might want to buy a property or sell a property. And also that landlord knows that we give a shit about their property, and we've made sure that continual, like, are you okay? Is anything we can help with? Just that constant pressure in the customer journey. And I think a lot of agents just really like that because they're too focused on, yeah, I've got another listing, we've got this. That's great, but how are you doing it? And you're just getting the listings because you're lying to them and saying the price, and you're promising them things that you're not going to deliver. There's lots of properties in here.
Well, I had companies that used to work for where, like, if I don't care, goes to another department. It's their problem.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Okay, great. And then what? Well, no, that doesn't matter to them.
Yeah, and then they all scarping into the toilet when a customer comes in. I don't know.
And then leave the company anyway in like 6 months.
They do, because they're thinking, I'm fed up of dealing with this, and I'm fed up of taking the blame for someone else. And, I've worked with people before, and they'd be like, the desk is there. So as soon as the customer comes in, all day they're just getting hounded. And especially with lettings, especially, again, thinking about the area where you're going to set up your business. There's lots of other areas I could have gone to, but then I thought, no, I know the type of people who are going to come in the door. You make a phone taxi on your phone. I've worked in those areas before, and you think, we've got to really think about your business and where you want to be and what you're going to do with it. I see people now in the area who are working with the housing associations, to setting up organisations, they're hiring lots of staff to help. It's a short-term thing, and it's like property sourcing. You probably see all these get rich quick schemes and training courses they're all doing. They're like, lots, and they're all like a high five at each other. And now I've got a range in. So, no, I'm not bothered. I'm driving around them both. Yes, they're okay. It's about the customer for me. And I think that's how I'll continue. I'm like, yeah. I say I'll retire at 55, but we'll see. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this Estate Agency X podcast. Can you make sure that you're actually subscribed to this podcast channel if you liked the content? It helps us massively to get better guests, and it just helps us generally. So you might think you're subscribed, but just have a double check. Whatever your podcast platform of preference is, that you're actually subscribed, and then that way we can continue to grow the channel and get better and better guests for you.